Thank you for tuning into The Truth with Trinity, and I am your host, Trinity. And if this is your first time tuning into the podcast, I'd like to send you a warm welcome. Here, I talk about issues that happen within the Black community, hopefully for some resolution or at least some food for thought to go about your daily way. So, without further ado, I'd like to jump into this episode's topic, which is practices and traditions Black people pass to their children that keep them further behind. So, first, I like to read the definition of tradition, okay? And that is an inherited, established, or customary pattern of thought, action, or behavior, such as religious practices or social custom. And I'm going to refer to social customs when we talk about Black people in our community, okay? And I like to first start off by saying that, you know, we're often taught, as Black people, that we should forget about, slavery. We should forget about, Black history, even beyond slavery, even before, Black people were ever captured or any of that. We should forget about it. And I think part of that is not only because of the significance of who we are as Black people, but also it teaches us to forget what our great great grandparents wanted once slavery was done away with. Okay, so not just our great history, but what they wanted. And we need to start thinking as Black people. It's a shame because I hate to think that what they went through, all the killings, the beatings, and the lynchings that they went through, is in vain because of what we chose to make a new tradition, because their tradition isn't like our traditions and customs that we do now. Theirs was fighting for freedom, equality, education, family, jobs, and a peaceful living and existence. And what have we turned our traditions now in 2021 as Black people, okay? And as Black people currently in 2021, have we ever contemplated how our ancestors would feel if they saw the condition of how some of us live today? Our ancestors fought, bled, and died for the many freedoms that they would have considered luxuries. So the freedoms that they fought for, just to be able to drink out of a water fountain, just to be able to apply for, to be able to vote or a job. A lot of the things that we have as Black people today, we're so spoiled because we wasn't brought up in that era. And some of us, our grandparents do try to teach us things that went on, but we want to silence them on it because of the luxuries that we have now. They would have considered them luxuries, but we take it for granted as Black people, okay? And it's crazy because many of our great grandparents slept outside of universities for education and risked death, yet many of us don't or won't read. Okay, so a lot of our ancestors, they marched and they did a lot of things and protests to be able to go to school to even get a decent education. Yet they fought for us to do these things, but we won't even read, a lot of us. Okay, they fought for employment and were constantly discriminated against. Yet many of us, okay, refuse to even fill out a job application. Okay, they fought at the chance to be considered human. Because back then they considered Black people, and some of them still do, three-fourth human. Okay, yet we constantly throw our rights away on a daily basis as Black people. Okay, our great grandparents were also denied education to be forced to stay in complacent roles such as cleaner, butler, dishwasher, and servant. Okay, so that was a double whammy back then. They were denied even elementary K through 6 education. A lot of our great 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 grandparents, which is where a lot of the broken English comes from, so that they could just to justify them staying in those roles. Like, hey, you don't have an education, you don't have the Ivy League education, you didn't even graduate from high school. Of course they didn't. You wouldn't let them even read back then. So that forced them to have to stay in those cleaner roles, those servant roles. And look at us now. with all the financial aid and the things that we have, yes, it puts you in a certain amount of debt, but if you want more, sometimes you got to play a little gamble. You have to risk. And if you don't want to do that, like I've always said, go ahead and start your own business and make it successful. But whatever it is, look at our grandparents back then, and look at us now, though. And what made them so brave, if we really look back on it, is a lot of them died, okay, knowing that they were never going to get the opportunities that we have now. But they died so that 70 to 90 years down the lane, that people like you and I would have the chance to do what a lot of us are taking for granted and throwing away in the trash can. Okay? And look how we're dishonoring our ancestors, okay? We say, okay, so we say we want better as black people, yet we refuse to do the work to make the necessary changes to get ahead. And what's even worse, these same practices are passed along to future generations, basically our children. So as black people, we keep crying about change. We keep saying we want this change as black people, yet we keep repeating the same patterns. Okay? And I would like to discuss some things and traditions that we're passing along to the youth. Okay, and it's causing us further damage as black people. Okay, so number one is the music. Okay, music and dancing should never be more important than reading, math, and science, And like I said before, you could see some children, they know the lyric, they know, so many lyrics, okay, to a song, and they could dance the latest moves, but are under the reading literacy level. Okay, and that's bad, and that's something that's always been stereotyped about black people. Okay, we're great dancers, we're great musicians, we're all this, but we can't spell and we can't read. Okay, and if we're gonna make a change as black people, that's the number one way that we can make a change is with education. Okay, and we have a big problem with that in the African American community of making music, dancing like we're some type of jester or clown. Okay, so this is the role that's been placed on black people, and all we do as black people, not all of us, but a lot of us are still fitting into this stereotype that we're perfectly complacent and okay with. So we need to switch that around, that music and dancing should never be more important than getting your education, especially with our youth and our children. Number two, if we are tired of seeing our young black men locked up so easily, it is time that we retire the street life. Okay? Why are elder black men passing on the torch of thug life that keeps self endangering black men? That's one of the things, that one of the traditions that we pass along, and quite frankly, a lot of black men have passed along. They're just as well as black women aren't being honest with the pitfalls of single motherhood and prostitution. I think we can really discuss how a lot of African American black men are passing on this torch, that instead of getting your education, instead of going, to college or owning your own business, the rites of passage of being a true man, they're teaching them to put the gun in their hand to shoot another black man, and you're not a man until you've done so. You're not a man until you've gotten your first criminal charge. You're not a man until you've went to jail. And this is what perpetually being broadcasted into the generations after the next generations, basically picking cotton, generational jail and incarceration. And we've got to stop that tradition as black people. That's one of the things we've got to stop. Okay. Also, we must extinguish the tradition of acting like what we see on television, commercials, and videos. Like, for example, if the new fashion is a man wearing a dress, now all men and boys want to follow what they see on TV. All because the person promoting the style or image is popular, or a guy wearing a purse, or a guy selling crack or dope, a black man killing another black man. All of a sudden, this is popular just because it's someone that you like. that has sung some song that you like, okay? Same for young black women. Just because a woman sings a song that you like doesn't mean you have to act and dress like what she might have worn on stage, you know? And that's another thing as black people, we love to feel like we have control. And it's a false sense of control on the aspect we say that we control the what's popular and what fad is in and what style is in, and that people want to be like us. But the question that black people need to start asking themselves is if we have such control over what we consider that's popular or in, why are we putting in styles that is crippling and killing our people? So that should cause black people to wake up that, hey, I keep saying that all these styles that are in that I'm controlling, but no, actually, it's someone that's controlling the styles that's being put on the celebrities that you're copying, and that is being it's controlling black people. So the contrary to the belief that we as black people, yeah, people follow us or whatever and stuff like that, but no, how much of it that we're following something and we're being programmed. We keep saying we have all this control, and quite frankly, like I said, if we did, why are we keep putting things out there that is causing and killing us and things of that nature? So that should tell you a red flag that no, we're not controlling everything that we find is popular. And I'd like to make an episode in detail. Like I said, everyone sees something on TV that they like and they copy it or something, but why are we as black people the number one people we follow and emulate and talk like and dress like and dance like 100% what we see on TV? And I want to say part of that is because as black people, we're the only ones missing our language. We're the only ones missing our native tongue, and we're the only one missing our God and our natural way of being. That's why we follow so deeply every movement and every dress and style and action of what we see on TV more than any other race of people. And so we need to really, create better traditions for our children so that we will become better as a people, okay? Um, and as black people, we must discontinue the tradition of being exploited for making money for others. And also, we must make ourselves less prone to being programmed. And I kind of talked about that just now. It's okay to make money and stuff, but we're being exploited off of our abilities. As black people, we do have supernatural abilities of influence because of who our ancestors are, and as one time we did rule the earth. So of course we have these rulership capabilities, but they're being exploited in ways that benefit other people, pocketbook wise, and it's a detriment to us spiritually as black people. And as we continue to let people make money off of us, we continue to be more programmed, so we need to reverse that and have some control, better control over our destinies. And finally, let us as black people squash the tradition of our sons getting killed just because daddy did it too or uncle did it, okay? So this is a whole I gotta be a thug because my dad was one. This is just a thing to do as a black man, to kill another black man, to, accumulate these charges and to give up my freedom that my ancestors, they didn't even do anything and their freedom was taken, okay? So, we need to really refocus what we prioritize as people, period. Let's squash the tradition within the black community that being smart and well read is lame, and that being a high school dropout and a felon or a teenage mom by the age of 18 is popular, okay? Because this is part of the reason why we stay in poverty as black people. We can all already talk about, we didn't get reparations. They lied about the 40 acres and a mule from our ancestors and all these things, right? But this is, and some of them don't want us to, further educate ourselves and better ourselves, but that shouldn't control us. And that, we give too much power sometimes to outside sources for things that we can solve within ourselves. And this is one of the biggest problems that we have in the black community is that a lot of things that are harmful to us, like I said, like being a felon, so many of our young black men rushing out to be felons to be considered hard or some type of man, and so many of our young black women and young black girls are becoming mothers because they don't understand the value in their sexuality, not even to be able to be eligible for marriage or any type of higher education because they're bombarded with children. And then our young adolescents are coming from children themselves, and there's no wisdom or anything being passed on now because of the parents being so young. Okay, so let's squash the tradition where we treat everyone else with respect and value but won't respect or value our own black men and women, and that's a big one right there. As black people, especially a lot of our ancestors coming from slavery, we were taught to serve everybody. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Everyone else, respect everyone else's life. Okay. But then when it comes to us, we won't respect our own lives. When you see a black person walking across the street, stop your car. That person doesn't have to be white for you to show respect, especially to your own people. You understand? When you see one of your own fellow black men or women in danger, won't you lend a helping hand? Okay, and once we start to do this, I believe that it will send more healing upon the land, upon us as black people, so we can stop having this every man for himself, and not looking out for our own people, but we're willing so much to look out for everyone else, and then we want everybody else to respect us and value us. But the truth is, who's going to respect or value anyone, that doesn't respect their own race of people? In an analogy, metaphorically speaking, it's almost like a woman who wants respect from a man, and the man sees her disrespecting herself. So how much respect is she going to get from a man? Now I'm referring that to black people. For us, we want a certain type of respect, and reverence, in this country, but at first to be taken halfway seriously. Okay, we need to start showing each other respect and valuing our own life as black people. Okay, furthermore, let's squash the tradition of being crabs in a barrel once and for all. Instead of fearing that the next black woman or man has something that we want, or fear that we will never get it, let's just be happy simply for the fact that another black person made it or has obtained nice things. Once we begin to break the stereotypes and damaging traditions passed down from one generation to another, is when we can break generational cycles, become closer to God, and restore our birthright upon the earth. Look, that pretty much concludes this segment. I just want to thank each and every one of you for taking your time to listen. I also wanted to thank all my subscribers, and I want to thank everyone for leaving your your comments. It's very much appreciated. If you like, you can subscribe, you can hit the like button, you can hit the notification or the share button. Okay, you can also listen to my podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and Anchor. And always remember, if you can't tell the truth with anyone else, you can with Trinity. Till next time, take care.